an insane weekend of NFL games, Evan. Entertainment value aside, with everything basically a walk-off win, there's going to be a lot of attention paid to what ended up happening in what many people are calling the best game they've ever seen, and it's honestly hard to argue. Bills Chiefs, as good as it gets in terms of high-level play, drama, back and forth, win probabilities just swinging back and forth, but then it ends in a way that leaves people with a slightly bad taste in their mouth, which is two great quarterbacks going punch for punch and one guy not getting the ball in overtime with any chance to have final say. Josh Allen, who played a near perfect postseason, did not get to touch the ball in overtime because the rules say you get the ball, you score a touchdown, you
Right.
win. Patriots fans know this well by now.
Yes.
They've benefited from it twice, winning a Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, obviously the division championship against the Kansas City Chiefs by marching down the field and scoring a touchdown. Ball
Right.
game over. Thank you very much. Chiefs fans were obviously singing a different tune back in the day because they wanted it overturned. And now it's, well, those are the rules. But I do feel change is likely
Yes.
in this case. So let's go through some different scenarios. One, before we go through every potential option, would you be in favor of it?
I would be in favor of it because I think when you get to this time of the year, entertainment is what we all want. I know everybody wants fairness and all this other crap, but ultimately we all just want to be entertained. And when you have two great quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen going toe to toe, don't you just want to see them go back and forth in overtime where it's literally all is on the line, right? Like you literally can't screw up at that point in the game because the other guy is just going to take the ball and win the game. Now, I saw NFL research put out a statistic today that in the regular season, it's actually pretty 50-50. The team that
Yeah,
wins the coin toss versus the
I
team
know.
that does it in overtime. But in the postseason, the team that wins the coin toss is 10-1 in the postseason and under this overtime format. And the reason being is because you're handing the ball to Patrick Mahomes. You're handing the ball to Tom Brady. You're
They're
handing the
great.
ball.
They're great
Right,
players, high level players.
right.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's not
Two
like
games between Jacksonville and whatever.
right,
They're just going to keep punting the ball back to each
right,
other. So
right.
you don't know.
It's a totally different animal. So at that point,
Yeah.
when you get into these games against these truly elite quarterbacks, it is really difficult to give that guy the ball and not get to see the ball again. Now, the problem that the owners had and the rule committee had when they proposed this after the 2018 season, after the 18 championship game, Kansas City, they did propose to change the rule where
And
each
nobody even
team.
voted. They didn't even vote on
Right,
it.
because the vote was on each team got to possess the ball once, regardless of the result of the first drive, right? So the problem was is that the competition committee sat there and said, okay, well, then Patrick Mahomes scores a touchdown, Josh Allen scores a touchdown, and then Patrick Mahomes kicks a field goal and wins the game. So like it's the same thing, right?
So
You're just bucking it down the line a little bit more. So there has to be some sort of end eventually, obviously, and there also has to be some sort of way to say, okay, eventually the guy that has the ball is going to win the game on that possession. It can't always be
maybe.
baseball, right?
But I do think you can, and again, we're going to wrap this up after this, but I do want your take on this. I do think you can do that during the regular season, and the
Yeah,
numbers bear out, and it makes sense. And also, players don't want to be stuck in these long overtime things. They're already playing 17 games now, so
right,
adding more time is tough. But in the playoffs, I do think you almost have to view it as hockey. They go 3-on-3 during the regular season, and then 5-on-5, even though it's sudden death in the postseason. I think you got to play the full quarter and just let it play itself out. Then you might adopt some sort of ball on the 25-yard line approach,
right.
similar to college, for a second period along those lines. But I do think that might be the fairest thing. Another thing I saw that's reasonable is let the other decide, do the coin flip before the game. And decide if the game does go to overtime, whether you want your team to have that ball there or instead of deferring a kickoff and this and that.
Right.
Fold that into the opening coin toss so it's determined ahead of time. Could be another thing where okay, you've made that choice. You lost strategically here, but not, somewhere else. But I do think change is potentially in the offing. I just think they'll probably do it just for the playoffs and come up with something
Right.
similar to that.
It's just if you go with the college model, if you go with the baseball analogy, right, where each
Yeah,
team gets a half inning eventually somebody's got to win the game. So you can't just keep
Yep.
on going back and forth all day long. So
Yep.
now in college, what they've done is they've made you go for 2 points and things like that to kind of force your hand. And maybe there's things that
There's
they could do like that. But ultimately, I think that the defense needs to get a stop. The offense needs to score a
again,
touchdown,
in
and you got to
theory,
play
it makes
football.
sense. Offense isn't the only game. Sometimes your defense can win the game for you,
Right.
and so it's not always, but it's just
Right.
turned out that way on a big stage. For Evan Lazar, I'm John Zannis. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more.